Hi, my name's Phil. I like to talk about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss the parting shots of former Deputy Chair Ben Habib against Reform UK, but most especially the curious coincidences regarding Reform's Tory defectors and how journalists could really cause Nigel Farage a lot of trouble over them if they had a mind to. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news in politics, please subscribe to the channel. So it's not been the best week for Nigel Farage, really. Ben Habib has finally given up on Reform UK and he's attacked them for no longer letting him play with their toys. Now, in reality, I strongly suspect Nigel Farage and indeed the rest of the leadership of Reform UK had no use for Habib, and just like the Brexit supporting fishermen, tossed him away as soon as he was no longer a useful idiot for them. So I don't think they really care about what he's got to say right now. And speaking of Brexit supporting fishermen, if any of them still support Nigel Farage after this week, they are a lost cause. Like, Nigel Farage spent years complaining about UK interests on fisheries issues in the EU, and yet he was the UK representative on the committee. He was the one who was supposed to be batting for British fishermen, and he didn't turn up to the meetings ever. So how he got to complain about UK interests while not turning up to the meetings to present UK interests, and why British fishermen never saw him as failing them years ago, I will never know. But this week, you couldn't mistake their disdain. Richard Tice was tweeting about fishing again and how only Reform UK will protect and promote British fishing. Do you know what was happening at the same time as he was tweeting that? On the same day as he was tweeting that, there was a debate about fishing in Parliament. Now, there are 5 members of Reform UK. If they're members now, they're not really members just yet. But there are 5 MPs for Reform UK who were entitled to turn up at that debate and speak. None of them did. It wasn't just that Richard Tice didn't turn up. None of them did. Not Nigel Farage, not Lee Anderson, none of them. These people care only about their own interests. They like shouting about things that they would do if only they had more power. But you give them a bit of power and see what they do to it or with it. They don't turn up. But how far are they willing to go in pursuit of these selfish interests? Yeah? Andrea Jenkyns, former Tory MP, joined Reform UK this week. I did mention it earlier this week. Following on from Lee Anderson, of course, she becomes the second former Tory MP to join their ranks. Close former Tory MP. There is Anne Widdecombe as well. She used to be a Tory MP, but I mean in terms of recent times. Defecting from the Conservative Party like Lee Anderson. And there's something else linking the two as well. Both of them have claimed that while still Conservative MPs, they were offered financial inducements, bribes, in return for defecting. Lee Anderson, I think, was the first to make the claim. At the time, I thought it more likely he was just making it up in order to spook Rishi Sunak and persuade him to give him a senior position, which he did in the form of one of the deputy chairs of the party. Such a bribe would have been very, very illegal. And I doubt it was worth Richard Tice actually doing that, because it would be quite easy, wouldn't it, if someone defected from the Conservatives and then you suddenly find out someone or Reform UK or one of their donors is giving them money. If anyone found out, that would be, there could be a criminal investigation. Richard Tice was Reform's leader at the time. But it still raises suspicions, doesn't it? Because both Lee Anderson and Andrea Jenkyns, they've both claimed to have been offered bribes to defect to Reform UK, and they've both defected to Reform UK, albeit a bit later on. Another little stick to poke Farage with, who is struggling under the pressure. Earlier this week, a couple of days ago, after Farage claimed that Reform UK were going to be putting in the most rigorous vetting procedures in future. If he was Boris Johnson, he'd have called them world-leading vetting procedures, after having to admit that they had no vetting of candidates at all in the general election. So Farage was quite reasonably asked about James McMurdoch, the Reform MP who served a custodial sentence some years ago for repeatedly kicking his girlfriend. But he lied about it. He claimed he only pushed her and she hurt herself. No, he repeatedly kicked her and had to be pulled off her. Farage was asked if McMurdoch would pass Reform's new vetting process had it been in place at the time. Farage did not take kindly to the question. He had a little bit of a rant about having 100,000 members and 1 million followers on TikTok and scarpered.
The most vigorous vetting system in place now. Do you think James Murdoch would not go through this new vetting system?
You can have your fun at Sky News. We've got 100,000 members. I've got 1 million followers on TikTok. Dame Andrea Jenkyns has just joined us. She's our candidate for Greater Lincolnshire. You've had your fun. I'm off for lunch. Thank you.
I've got a TikTok account. You see, you can't ask me questions that I don't like, you see. I've got a TikTok account. I have a Twitter account as well. It's called X these days. And that was it. Off he bravely ran away. I mean, imagine how he would respond to questions about accepting 2 Tory rejects who were both on record as claiming that Reform UK had offered them bribes to join them. I mean, that'd be a tricky one, wouldn't it? Farage obviously can't say that they were bribed because that's a criminal offence. But he also can't say that they weren't, because then you're saying that 2 of your star players are self-serving liars. This could actually be a much trickier question than the McMurdoch one, really. And it does show something yet again. See, people keep describing Nigel Farage as being this skillful politician. It's not really true. He's a skillful campaigner. He's a very good campaigner. He's also arguably one of the most impactful British politicians of the last decade. But that is largely due to the fact that his major impact came as a result of his campaigning skills and being up against some pretty weak political leadership. But when he actually gets put under the sort of scrutiny that is routine for a lot of politicians, it just falls to pieces. We saw it during the election. We've seen it again this week. He seems to have no real skill in distraction, diversion, just good old changing the question, like genuinely experienced politicians do. Oh, I don't think that's the real question. The real question is this completely different question, which I will now answer. You know, he's just never had the need to employ these skills until now. So he just panics. Whenever he's faced with a tricky question, he panics. Perhaps this is why he's now had to jump on the anti-abortion bandwagon, leaping from culture war to culture war like a demented frog in search of the lily pad of sanctuary in an attempt to maintain support whilst avoiding questions. So maybe journalists should start asking how much he offered to Lee Anderson and Andrea Jenkyns and see where he jumps off to after that. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please click the like button. If you'd like to support the channel further, you can join for memberships. Thanks for watching. And until next time, I'll see you later.